Hello and greetings, and it's been a little while since the last episode of Coffee Books Repeat. If you remember from the last one, I had a little family thing planned, and then there were some issues with last guest. They had some more important things they had to take care of, and it's just been busy around here. But I'm back, and I am going to just spend a little bit of time talking about my experience doing the whole freelance thing, because as those who follow me on Twitter might know, I spend a lot of time interacting with and talking about other people's work, but I really don't talk much about my own or my experience working in the freelance sphere. Now, before I get going, Coffee Books Repeat, I do have things up on YouTube right now in the comment section. I threw a link into Twitter, so go ahead and check that out. Or you can ask any questions on Twitter if you happen to be catching this live. And if not, send any questions you do have to gingermaneditorial@gmail.com. All right. So what do I do? Okay. First of all, I guess I should say I don't do writing and editing full time. I've got a lot of kids. I'm married and have, food's got to get on the table, and it just doesn't pay that much. Let's be honest. It can be done. Lots of people do it. I have not reached that level yet. That's fine. Which is one of the things they want to talk about. But let's go back to the beginning just a little bit. Short version of how I got into it in the first place is I was part of this big giant nerd sphere called the Middle Earth Network. It was a lot of fun for a while, and I won't go into all the details of why that totally imploded. But it did. But along the way, I made a lot of pretty good friends, and amongst them was a couple of people who had a small publishing company, and they just sort of started asking me to read stuff for them before they released it, and I did, and I started making comments and suggesting changes here and there, and they started throwing more stuff my way, and I really enjoyed it. So, but then, it was small, so it was essentially volunteer work. But that was fine. It's where I cut my teeth. It's where I kind of learned the craft of going through a story and figuring out how to explain what works, what doesn't work, how to fix a sentence that just isn't saying what the author wants it to say. And eventually I decided, well, will somebody pay me for this? And I decided to just go ahead, throw myself out there, see if anything would happen. Now, the first thing I did was I signed up for something called Upwork. It is a third-party site where freelancers of various kinds can go and advertise their services. Their interface it's a little bit difficult to get used to, but you can get used to it. And it does have a lot of advantages in the sense that there's an hours tracker built into the whole thing, where if you want to charge hourly, you can easily do that, and it tracks your hours. It sends your clients screenshots of your screen, so if they doubt that you're actually working the hours that you say you are, there's proof, or at least what really should be proof. So getting work on that is essentially you go through and you browse people's postings and you write a proposal saying, please hire me. I charge this much. Here's the reasons you should hire me, so on and so forth. Upwork, I had some success with it. I did a lot of proofreading for some realtors in Florida, actually, and I'll get into some of the stuff that I've worked on as we go along here. And that actually paid me pretty well. And the work in and of itself was mildly interesting because, I'm not a realty expert or anything, but still, I could say that this sentence doesn't work. This doesn't make any sense. Fix it this way. But that was really, I've had a few other things where I even did a little bit of voice work actually through Upwork. One job. And I really enjoyed doing that. That was a lot of fun. But I never got a lot of traction through Upwork. A few other things, writing writing stuff for advertisement agencies and things like that. Little stuff here and there, but the only client I had that worked for a long time was Gabriella. I'm going to mess up her last name. Maidar. I did an interview with her for this podcast a while back. So you can go and watch that for that whole story. And we actually first connected through Fiverr, another website similar to Upwork. But then for what we were doing, which I was pretty much writing one guidebook after another, like short 5,000 word things. And, she paid me, she paid me a reasonable thing considering where I was, where my level was and everything. And I was very happy for the work. It was interesting. I always got to research something new. And I learned a lot of different things through that work. So again, Gabriella, if you're watching this, thank you. And anyway, she moved over to Upwork because, again, the system worked better because you could set milestones and stuff and just pay for each thing instead of doing a separate order for each guidebook. And for a while there, it was like as soon as I was finishing one, I was starting the next. So Upwork really worked better for that. And Upwork has a tiered system where when you first start off, they take 20% of whatever your earnings are. But then after you reach a certain amount, I think it's $500, then they only take 10. And once you get to like $10,000 or something like that, they only take 5. So, if you're with a particular client for a while, that's a great system. But again, other than Gabriella and that realty company out of Florida, I didn't really have any long-term repeat clients on Upwork. Just never got any traction there. I honestly, I don't know why, but I just didn't. Fiverr, I got some really good traction with. It took a while. I was actually on there for months before I got so much as one single order. And that was because I went into the buyer request section, which I didn't know about at first. But once I did that, I started throwing things out there, offering my services really cheap just to get somebody to sort of break the seal. And that was actually, again, it was Gabriella that broke the seal there. And, once that seal was broken, I pretty much had a steady string of orders. First, it was like I went a long time without having more than 1 or 2 days without a job. Then it became I got 2 orders at a time and 3 and 4. Before you know it, I was like I always had work, always, and that was really great. I built up a lot of good repeat clients, and it was a lot of fun. Then I got really busy. Last fall, it got to a point where I had at least half a dozen orders going at any one time. Sometimes big, sometimes little. It depends. A lot of orders I was getting had really, really, really tight deadlines, or they had very specific requirements. There were a lot of revisions that had to be done, so on and so forth. And it was just getting really, really busy. It got to a point where I would come home from work and I would go to work, like barely see the wife and kids, be like, hi, I love you. And I've got to get the stuff done. Yeah. Not sleeping a whole lot and all of that. And I would, at work, I would also work on the editing and writing during my breaks and everything. So it was like, as soon as we sit down for a break, lunch, whatever, boom, I'd flip open my Surface and get going, get as much done as I could. So I had to kind of take a break there. I actually put everything on vacation mode. At first, it was just going to be a couple of weeks just to catch up. But I told a couple of my clients that were doing a lot of repeat work with me at that time, go for them to keep sending me stuff. That was fine. And they did. And so I actually stayed busy for a very long while, well into when I was getting really busy with my day job as well. At the time, it was very weather dependent, and the weather was making me very busy. So I stayed on vacation mode a lot longer than I expected. I only just came out of it maybe 2 months ago, finally. And business has been very slow since, which again is fine because I've been working on this and a couple of other podcasts, and finally working on getting my website back up to snuff. But first, a little bit more about Fiverr. Once you actually get reviews and everything, like I said, other orders do start to come in. So if you decide to go there and you have a slow start, don't worry, it will come. As you get more reviews, you start to build up a good reputation, more will come, and you'll be able to bump up your rates a little bit too. I started amongst the lowest on Fiverr, but I worked my way up to where I was charging the average. And if I get busy again, I'm going to bump my rates to higher than the average. That's if I'm actually still deciding whether or not I'm going to keep my Fiverr account. And that is in part because they charge 20% flat regardless, no matter how much work you have with a given client, no matter how much it is, so on and so forth. So if you do a $5 order, you get $4 of it. And this isn't a complaint about the fact that they charge something, because they do provide a service. They provide a secure way for you to connect with your clients, which is a fantastic thing. And they also provide a means of resolving disputes, which they will happen. You will get the occasional client who does not give you enough information for the job, who just won't. I had one where I won't go into the detail on it, of course, but excuse me a moment. I had one where just wanted me to do something with a form, but never actually said, the client never said what they wanted me to do with it at all. And I asked, it's like, what do you want here? Do you just want it proofread? Do you want it reformatted? I have no idea. And person never said. I asked for extensions. I asked to be able to meet via Skype so this person could go through the details, explain what they wanted me to do, and just got nothing. And this was all for like a $5 order too. So I was bending over backwards for this, and then the person wound up leaving like a 1-star review, and I appealed it to Fiverr, and they're like, "Yeah, this is nonsense." Boom, it went away. So it is helpful. And also, if you are a buyer and not a seller, there's also ways to say, yeah, this person did not deliver what I was looking for at all. I don't think they should get my money. So they do a lot to provide that. They'll direct deposit your money into your bank account or to PayPal. You can just leave it in Fiverr if you want to use the money you earn on Fiverr to buy other people's services on Fiverr. It's all very easy to do. I did that. One of my logo designs actually came from another person on Fiverr. So anyway, that's really cool. There's also a good support community. There's forums and everything to try to get questions answered. They did at some point a while ago during my hiatus, they made a lot of changes to the system and everything, and there seemed to be a lot of issues with different browsers where people can't. For a while, I'm like, what happened to my ability to create an offer? Other people can't add attachments. Another person I know has had a hard time setting up their account. So anyway, all of that is just Fiverr is good. Like I said, I got a lot more traction with that than I did Upwork for some reason. Maybe it's because you can post videos to your profile explaining what it is you offer, explain your rates and all of that. I'm sure that makes it a lot more personable. Also, just the format is more visually appealing on Fiverr than it is on Upwork. So there may just be a difference in the kind of person that goes to each place. I'm not sure. So anyway, stuff I've gotten to work on. I've gotten to work on some really great stuff. One of the things I'm most proud of is I worked on a biography of Mose Jones Jr. You can find it actually on my website, gingermaneditorial.com. I've got a page that's finished projects. A lot of it is, it's not all of the stuff I've worked on. It's just some of the stuff I've worked on that I know has been published either on Amazon or elsewhere. And it's a biography of a civil rights leader down in Alabama. He was like the first black elected official down there. Maybe specifically for his county, maybe for the state. I don't remember for sure. But it was really cool. And it was his daughter who commissioned me to work on it. And it was a great project to work on. A lot of work, a very tight deadline. But again, I'm quite proud of that project. And there's others. I've worked on all kinds of stuff. Everything from devotionals, like one you'll find on my website. It's just Joseph, Joseph, the Technicolor Dream Coat Joseph, that one. And it's kind of a spiritual exercise book based specifically on his story. So it's very interesting. If, like me, you're religious at all, you'll realize that that's a pretty fun project. I've worked on a ton of fantasy books. Amongst them is, the Forgotten Legacy Chronicles. That's one of the first ones I worked on. And I actually got to be pretty good friends for a while with the author. We would talk, and we actually wound up brainstorming scenes and stuff together for for sequels and everything. And that was a lot of fun. There's lots of others that you'll find on there on my finished projects page, like westerns, sci-fi, historical dramas. I've worked on something from a doctor, and I need to go back through my history and everything and see if I can find that on Amazon. And it was a doctor who wrote the stories of a lot of his multiple sclerosis patients. Very interesting, very inspiring. It'll be very inspiring for certain people. Again, I need to get that one on my page yet. And really, this isn't to necessarily promote these books. It's more just to say the kind of stuff that I've had the opportunity to work on, some of the really good stuff. And, oh, goodness. A couple of the other ones that I worked on was a guy, Milton James, who was a social worker down in Australia. He's worked with a lot of the Aborigines down there, and writing about his experiences trying to help break the welfare cycle down there. Because down there, just like with a lot of urban communities and stuff here, there's generational welfare dependency. You know, grandmothers, mothers, and of course fathers too, obviously, and kids just all dependent on welfare for their basic existence, with seemingly little interest of changing it. So this guy just started setting up work programs, essentially, get them away from what is essentially their version of an Indian reservation, and getting them out of there, away from all the influences of drugs and drinking that are there, and out into the workforce a little bit. And it's had mixed but overall positive success. So I worked with him on 2 books on that subject, one describing his own program and another describing a similar program from like way back in the 60s that has almost been entirely forgotten. So again, very interesting work. Really, really enjoyed those projects. Another one, and I should expect to be working with this gentleman again soon, is I'm going to mess up, Doctor, I'm going to mess up your name. I'm sorry. But Dr. Oleg Konovalov, if I'm pronouncing it even remotely close to correctly. And he is a businessman, actually, from Ukraine. He lives in England now. And he wrote a book on corporate culture, actually 2 books. And normally I'm kind of down on that genre, to be perfectly honest. One, because it's usually a lot of airy corporate speak that doesn't mean anything. And also because he never really seemed to acknowledge that things aren't always going to be hunky-dory. This guy does. He actually talks about, okay, here's your warning signs for not just less than optimal culture, but for a flat out bad one that is going to kill your business. and it talks about how to fix it. So honestly, it's one of the most original and best books in that entire genre. And I have actually read a few of them because I have a business management degree. So I've had to suffer through some of the more generic works of that genre before. So I have a basis for comparison. Anyway, some great fiction like Comet Dust from C.D. Verhoff. I've interviewed her in the past. If you've been following me for a while, you probably have heard me talk about her and her work. Very, very good. It's a Catholic end of the world book, and trust me, you might hear that description and go, "Yeah, I don't want nothing to do with that." Trust me on this. Give it a read. It is incredibly well written. It is seriously one of the most well-written books I've read in the last 5 years, at least. So I read a lot. So it's really, really good. And of course, there's a ton of other things I've gotten to work on too. Like visa applications for this one couple looking to move from Turkey to England, just as an example. Looking to start up an internet business. Other things, I helped a guy with a corporate paper. Tons of young adult fantasy. That is huge. There's a lot of demand to help with that work. And almost any genre, dystopian stuff. I've done a little bit of horror, and I've done a lot of writing in a lot of these genres as well. Freelance, always ghostwritten. I've ghostwritten blog posts for health blogs. I ghost wrote a short story about rednecks fighting a zombie apocalypse. It's just a lot of fun all around, to be honest. Other things that I've got to work on. Oh goodness. I actually did a lot of editing for something called Holy Places TV. I edited a lot of their scripts. So in fact, I think it's just holyplacestv.com. Go check that out. Watch our episodes. If you watch those episodes, you are listening to my work. If you, there's a animation studio in London, Digital Shogun. I've worked on a project with them. Basically a cartoon that's in development. Hopefully gets picked up, in which case I'll be very busy just with that, which would be fantastic. Others, I've helped a producer at the BBC develop some ideas for a movie and everything. It has not gotten greenlit, as far as I know yet. But if it does, as soon as I can say so, I would be happy to say so. But again, just if you go into this world, you're going to have a lot of fun with it. There are a lot of good clients out there who will benefit from your help. There's also a downside. For every great client, every great project, there's probably 2 or 3 not so good. And I won't go into any details there out of respect for my clients. But, there will be projects where you're going to read, the material it's not ready, and you're going to have to give the client bad news. I have actually been really surprised at how well all but like 1 or 2 of my clients have received it. They've actually all been great about it. They've either taken my advice or they have politely ignored me. Either one. I'm fine with either one. That's if you send me a story and you want my feedback and then you decide to not use the feedback, that's fine. That's up to you. I got no issues there. Your story, you do you, man. But let's face it, when the material isn't ready or it's just not clicking with you, whichever it is, it's work. It's definitely work. And then it's going to make you wonder, it's like, is this worth the time and effort? But anyway, yeah. So a lot of fun, but it's not all going to be fun. And I would say advice before I get close to wrapping this up here, pace yourself. Don't completely jump in with both feet. You know, don't try to take on every project that you can. At least, especially if you have kids. If you're single and you're really trying to make a go of this and you don't have any other obligations, throw yourself in. Throw yourself in, dive in head first. You know, come up for air when you absolutely have to, but otherwise, just dive deep and go for it. Because that's the time. That's the time when you should do it. That's the time when you take the chance, take all those risks. Take all those risks while you can, while you're the only one who suffers if it doesn't work out. And and it's still, if it doesn't work out, hey, you know what? That's all right. Do what I'm doing. Don't take on every single project. Take on a few projects here and there that you can take the time and enjoy. And, make a little extra money on the side, but also still spend time with your family. Because that's what's really going to be important in the end. And that's big part of why I'm doing this particular video is to let you guys know that with everything in life, there are trade-offs. And just be careful. If you have family, don't overextend yourself. It's easy to do, and it's a trap that I think everybody is tempted to fall into from time to time. It's one thing if you get to the point where you can do it as a full-time job, and then it's like, okay, I'm working 8 to 12 hours a day on this, but then I'm done, and then I go and spend time with the family. If you've got a job where you're already working 8 hours a day, and then you come home and you work on this, another 4 hours, it's a little bit different, especially if it's, you throw in drive time, your 8-hour day might be a 10-hour day already. Then you're adding another 4 on. Yeah, you can see where you can see what I'm getting at, I'm sure. So where does that leave me at now with my business? Well, I haven't paid any attention to Upwork in ages. Because again, I never got much traction there, and that's fine. Fiverr, I actually just finished a job with that, which is good. First one in a little bit, so I was happy for that, just to kind of help break the seal a little bit, get things going again. And also, I can't believe I've barely mentioned my website, gingermaneditorial.com. And that's where actually I'm really focusing on doing a lot of my work right now. I've got multiple clients now that are working with me through that website. So I don't have to change my rates, and I still wind up getting more money, which is great because you use PayPal, and PayPal takes mere pennies on the dollar, like practically nothing. So it's a lot more profitable every job that you do through just your own website using PayPal as the means, as opposed to going through one of these third-party sites. Now, starting with just your own website, obviously it's going to be harder to gain traction and to get busy, especially if you're wanting to get busy, really busy quickly. In that case, go over to Fiverr and just throw stuff out as cheaply as you can through the buyer request section at first, and build up some reviews to break that seal, and then attract a lot of people to you. If you don't have any obligations, go do that, and you will likely be rewarded. And then you can think about setting up your own website where you link it to the Fiverr account, and post your reviews and everything. And then some people might come to you, stumble across you on your own website, whether it's because of all of your Fiverr reviews or maybe your interactions on Twitter, whatever. And that's a big part of why I set up a Twitter account, was just to put my name out there. Of course, again, I actually don't promote myself very well. I barely talk about my work at all. It's just, I don't know. It's just weird for me to talk about my own work and what I do. But here I am trying to talk about it at least a little bit. So anyway, I guess I should talk a little bit about what my rates are. so that if any of you watch this and you're interested in giving me a go, you can. All right, so there are three main services that I offer. One is, of course, editing, which that's $5 for 1,000 words. And what that does is it's, of course, all your proofreading. It's going through, like, line by line sentence structure, making sure that it sounds right, that it flows. Because you could have a really tight plot and everything and characters, but if you don't write it well, if the sentences don't flow, it's just harder to read. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, is just getting down into that nitty gritty and offering those suggestions. And that's something too. I offer suggestions. That's it. You don't have to take them. I always use the track change feature in Microsoft Word, so you can accept or reject each suggestion according to whatever it is that you decide is appropriate for your story. And anyway, so you get that. You get all the standard grammar, proofreading stuff. You get like line by line copy editing, and I'll also do a whole critique of the individual story, of the whole story. Point out any issues with the characters. Point out any issues with the plot, anything like that. Basically any area where I see a problem, I'm going to point it out as part of that editing. So it's also kind of like your final test read for somebody to say, hey, these elements, they're just not working, or they're working really great, because I will point out good stuff too. And again, I don't just critique. I don't just criticize, I should say. I critique. I offer suggestions on how to fix whatever problems I see. There's also, of course, beta reading, which is, for those who don't know the terminology, is essentially the initial read through. You've got your first or second draft done, and you're ready to have people take a look at it and just see what they think. And yeah, that's a run through of the whole book and an overall critique of character, plot, and just, is everything clicking? Is everything meshing right? That is, if I remember, yes, $5 for 4,000 words to go through and just beta read everything. And it's also kind of like a developmental edit too, depending on where you're at with things. If it's like your first draft, you're still in a developmental stage, and I'll help you out with that. And that's actually been one of my more popular. They've all been popular at different times, but beta reading seems to have been pretty consistently popular throughout. And I do enjoy helping young authors work on developing their story and make sure that they're getting to say what they want to say, which, if you're getting into editing, you will find it's a temptation. You have to resist the temptation to make the person write the way you want to write. You may need to read things over a couple of times just to make sure that you're not doing that your suggestions fit with the author's style. I also do ghost writing. So if you just need somebody to, again, do some blog posts or something, you need a draft letter written for whatever, that's $5 for 400 words, because writing's a lot harder than editing. But I won't do your homework for you. Will not do it. I have had those requests on Fiverr. I am not writing your college research paper for you. Do your own work. I'll edit it for you. I'll help you make it sound better, but I won't write it for you. Do your own research. Let's see here. And of course, I'm willing to do, meet via Skype and talk about your work a little bit, answer questions about whatever critiques I offer. If I like the work, I'm going to, I'll also help promote you. If I give you the feedback and I'm like, hey, I think this is really good, I would love to help. I would love to help do whatever I can to promote you. So I'll write your review and throw that up on Amazon. If you want, we'll even do an interview. I give you a chance to talk about it to hopefully a different audience that you wouldn't normally be reaching. And yeah, there you go. I think that about does it for now. So again, gingermaneditorial.com. You can find me as Gingerman Editor on Fiverr if you would rather work with me that way. And of course, I am on Twitter at Gingerman Editor. So, and again, email is gingermaneditorial@gmail.com. So, hopefully I'll be seeing you. If you have any other questions about the whole freelance experience, if you're thinking about getting into it, if you're having an issue, go ahead, drop me a line. My DMs are open, so go for it. I do respond. And yeah, I hope to see you around on Twitter and in my inbox. Until next time, keep that coffee handy so you can keep on writing and doing it over and over again. Until next time.